Well, to cultural expert Professor Musa Xulu, and he says that these are interesting times because legal battles challenging Misuzulu KaZwelithini's rule are continuing today. He's joining us now this afternoon to discuss this matter further. Prof, good afternoon. Thank you very much for your time. Welcome to today here on eNCA. The issues of contestation or squabbling or fighting over the throne of AmaZulu nation are not new, but they have been playing themselves out now very much publicly and in our courts. I guess that would be a difference compared to in the olden days.
Thank you and good afternoon, my brother and your viewers. It's a pleasure to be here. No, the contestations are as old as the Zulu kingdom itself. You must remember that in the olden days, you just be killed. King Shaka was killed. King Tingane was killed. King Bande died a natural death. King Tsetshwayo got stabbed and then he died later. So the squabbles are always internal. It's a long thing that has happened, but nowadays, as you rightly say, they tend to go to the courts to try and sort out their differences as to who becomes the next king in their family. It has happened with the grandfather of the present king, the father of the present king, and now it's happened again since 2021. We are hoping that they will begin to see the light that it's not necessary to fight over this.
The intersectionality of the law and the cultural practices in terms of who ascends to the throne is a very fascinating one, because on the one hand, those who are contending that they should be the king include the eldest son of the late King KaZwelithini Zulu. So it's very interesting that he says, I'm number one, therefore I should be the one. It doesn't matter who is my mother.
Yeah, no, that's what he says. But interestingly, what is important is that the Act, the 2003 Act, requires the royal family, be it Zulu or any other, to present the customary practices on the issue of succession. So the Act does not prescribe for royal families. It says, tell us, what is your tradition in relation to the issue of succession? Then you have to go to your tradition. Now, I know in other cultures, especially in Europe and elsewhere, it always gets taken for granted that if you are the eldest, it means that you are the next in line. That's not universal. In case of, for example, KwaZulu, but I've also heard now through, as we work in eNCA and we work with many eNCAs, when we work with many Amakosi from other parts of South Africa. Once the king takes a woman from another royal household who has royal blood, that is the one that gives birth to the next king, irrespective of what number she is in a polygamous situation. Now, with Prince Magade, it's even worse because his mother did not marry the late King Xwelithini, and in fact, I was reliably informed that certain other recognition rights were not really concluded because, you know, sometimes you have to pay a goat or something if you impregnate somebody's daughter, even if you're not going to marry her. So, but I'm not going to get into those details. The fact that his mother did not marry the king disqualifies him. But what disqualifies him even more is that in the middle of the 1970s, the king decided to go to the kingdom of Swaziland to ask there that a woman, one of the daughters, the princesses there, marry the king. And cattle were paid in the form of lobola from all over KwaZulu, not only just royal cattle. Now, according to Zulu culture and tradition, once that happens, it's a signal that whoever is born out of that marriage is going to be the next king. This is how it happened.
Yes.
And so when the royal family met and then this is what they present to the president, and the president looks at this and he says, no, it conforms with the traditions, and therefore King Misuzulu becomes the rightful successor to the throne. He's rightly so there.
So when we watch the ceremony taking place, that is going to take place at Moses Mabhida Stadium at eThekwini on Saturday, what do we look at it from? Which lens are we looking at it from? Because this is a constitutional democracy, but the kingdom of AmaZulu nation has existed, I mean, for over 200 years.
Very important. You know, during May, we had a conference in which we asked the question, how do you sustain a kingdom in the context of a democratic state? And I think such a conference should become a national conference, because it's a question that we should ask all the time. Now, when we go to, on the 20th of August, we went to KwaKhangela Mankengane Palace when there was this traditional coronation. The lens that you use there is completely traditional. On Saturday, nothing changes from that, but there is an element of government coming in, and as you say, constitutionally coming in to make this presentation, which is very formal, according to government. I saw that Professor Nomale touched on that. In fact, it started on 1 September 1873, when Theophilus Shepstone came up to come and crown King Cetshwayo at Ondini. So it's been there, but the kingdom says, even though we received the certificate, it's as a result of government wanting to recognize one person from the kingdom. But the Zulus there, all 49,000 of them who will be there, and many, many more who will be outside, and a lot more millions will be watching, see this as a continuation of what started in May 2021 when King Misuzulu was named as the next king of the Zulus.
It's a continuation, but so it's also is the conclusion as well of, let's call it, the entire process of coronation. Although, of course, entering of the crawl in August was the traditional coronation.
Yes, definitely so, my brother. It's the conclusion. After this, nobody in government or anywhere in the world is confused as to who is king of the Zulus. Nobody in the Zulu kingdom, all 17 million Zulus, has been confused over this issue. But on Saturday, that's why there's so much, spirit of entertainment and celebration. It's because it's like, aha, now it comes to the end. The big question is, what do we do on the 30th and on the 31st of October and on the 1st of November? Because that's when the process of rebuilding the kingdom from the ruins of 1879 and rebuilding the spirit from the very hurtful passing away of His Majesty the King KaZwelithini and Queen Mantombi begins. That's why we begin to say, maybe it's now time for us to talk Zulu economics. How do we make sure that the kingdom is full of citizens who are not unemployed, who are not hungry, who are not poor? So that would be the next phase, in my view, while, of course, the cultural gains that have happened as a result of building up from May 2021 are retained. That's what now the path that will have to be traveled by everybody.
Yeah, you're touching on a point where I wanted to finish, because if you look back at the history of AmaZulu nation, you've mentioned some of the past kings, including, of course, the founding father of the Zulu nation, King Shaka, and all of them, they had a legacy. They in their periods when they were on the throne. So going forward, after this Saturday, it's going to be very important for Misuzulu KaZwelithini to craft the way forward, to build his legacy. Perhaps what you've just alluded to could be part of that, where there'll be no unemployed person in Zululand, in KwaZulu-Natal, where people will feel free and there'll be economic activity that everybody feels included in.
No, definitely. Already in our organization called Indonza Isizwe, and we'll be played, because we have done now the presentation to His Majesty the King. And we've written reports on that, on exactly this topic, to say, let us now have a round table where we look at what sectors would boost the economy of the kingdom. You must remember that there's Ingonyama Trust land here, and there are mineral resources underground, and there's a lot of the land is fertile, and people are unemployed, people are not eating, people are not doing any agriculture. It's a big question to say, all these academics, all these institutions that come together, all of us under Indonsa Sizwe, and help to strengthen the kingdom of the Zulu by addressing the problems of the day. The cultural gains that have happened now are enormous, not only for the Zulus, but for most kingdoms in South Africa. Let us now go the economic way to look at how we can implement economic empowerment in the Zulu kingdom.
Okay, no, Siyabonga. Thank you very much. Siyabonga Makhathini, Siyabonga Xabashe. Thank you very much for your time and your thoughts and sharing with us the knowledge you have ahead of this very important, significant part of or chapter of the history of AmaZulu Nation that's going to play itself out on Saturday, after which he says there can be no doubt who is the king of AmaZulu Nation, King Misuzulu KaZwelithini. Even his name is very significant, Umisa Izulu.